Morning, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom to you. Welcome to our time together on the Sabbath. Again, we'll have a few moments to share together this beautiful download from heaven. We get to breathe the Kedusha infused air, the air that is infused with the holiness of the Creator's courts in heaven. We get to hear the sounds, hopefully, in the deepest part of our souls, of the four living creatures crying out, "Worthy is the Lamb." We get to hear the sounds deep in our souls, deep in our spirits, our eternal spirits within us. We get to hear the songs of the cherubim and the seraphim, the holy, holy, holies of heaven. We get to feel the energy of the courtroom, the very heavenly courts, and all those creatures that dwell in those courts. And now we get to sense the power, the eminence, the beauty, the majesty, the goodness that flows out of the persona, the one who sits on the throne, the glorious Creator of the heavens and of the earth and all that is within them, our Father in heaven, our beloved mentor, our Creator, our designer, our sustainer. We get to draw off of his energy today, stepping aside from the worries, the troubles, the strife, the drama and the trauma of the earth, and all of its ways and all of its post-Edenic blocked mindsets and limited expectations. We can open our eyes and see into the heavenly realm and what he sees. If we could see what he sees. Beloved, we are now in Parsha number 47 of the total of 54. We have this year-long journey that we take through the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. On this journey, we have seen so many things. We have experienced so many testimonies. We've seen so much power and might and yet beauty and majesty. We've seen forgiveness. We've seen mercy. We've also seen the judgments that come whenever no one will receive mercy or forgiveness. We have seen so much, but we're coming closer and closer to the end of this year's journey. We're in Parsha 47 out of 54. That means we're close to the end. Now, the Parsha that we're in this week, the section of the Torah that we read and study and live out of and draw our life lessons from and absorb the energy of this week is Parsha Re'eh. It's Deuteronomy 11:26 through 17:13, I believe it is. I may have that wrong. I haven't even thought about it. I haven't got it written down. So it's in that area, maybe 16, 17, 17, 13. I can't remember exactly where it ends. But you'll know when we get there, if we get there. I have a subtitle for all these little subsections of Torah that we read. And my subtitle for Parsha Re'eh is Moshe's Diverging Pathways Discourse. The discourse, the discussion that he has that shows us the different directions we can travel, the different lifestyles we can live, the different levels of impact we can have. We are not bound by some sort of limitations of the earth. We can exceed, we can excel, we can go in a more excellent way. And that's what he wants to show us. There's a time for diverging of pathways. This is our time for seeing beyond what the world sees, seeing beyond what our flesh sees, seeing beyond what our pseudo-intellect and all of its opinions and attitudes, seeing beyond what our politicians and our scientists and our doctors see, seeing beyond way beyond what our educators and our indoctrinators see, seeing the very message, the very things the Holy One has designed for the people that he has created as they walk upon this earth. So, the Parsha Re'eh, the word Re'eh in Hebrew means to behold. It's like there's something missing in our vision. You know, for people who are told to behold or mira in Spanish, open up your eyes, it's not that your eyes are necessarily closed. It's that you're just not seeing the full picture, the bigger picture. You're not seeing what you need to be looking at. You're fixating, you're focusing, you're obsessing about little details. And when he says Re'eh, when that's the opening lines of the Parsha, when that's the message that he's giving, it's like, okay, you've been looking at self-limiting vision long enough. It's time to see bigger picture. It's time to see what the Holy One's doing and calling you to. Now, the first time the Hebrew verb root for Re'eh, and that is Ra'ah. The first time that is used is in Genesis 1. It's all through the creation song, the creation story of Genesis 1. The Holy One looked, the Holy One beheld, Ra'ah. And then he did something, he called, and then he would bless. And so in the Shabbat of Parsha Re'eh, our calling is to stop focusing on the negative, stop focusing on the drama and the trauma and the outrage. Look for the tov, look for the good. He said, behold, and it is good, and it was good. Then look for the tov that he called, and look for that which he called it. Don't use the world's nomenclature. Don't let the political speak, the politicos speak, or the newspeak of the generation define your terms for you and define your vocabulary for you. Call things as the Holy One calls them. So look for the good, the tov, look for the called, the kara, and look for the blessed. Look for that which is blessed, and go into the blessing and spread the blessing. Okay, Moshe's diverging pathways discourse. It's time for us to choose a pathway. Now, if we would look at where we are, we would understand that this is a very strategic time on the Kingdom of Heaven's calendar. So, calendaring notice is on the next thing on my agenda. The times and the seasons of the kingdom are not like the times and the seasons of the earth. They overlap, they correspond, but they are not the same. Some people think this is just the season of intense heat in the northern hemisphere, intense cold in the southern hemisphere. The Holy One looks at it differently. In the kingdom of heaven, this is the season of Nakamu, Ami, comfort, my people. This is the season of comfort. This is the season of consolation. This is the season of it's all going to be all right. This is a season of Father looking down at us and smiling and saying, I know you're worried. I know you're anxious. I know things don't look good from your perspective, but open your eyes and understand I am in control and this will be all right. This is the comfort and consolation season. 7 weeks. We began with Tisha B'Av, the Shabbat after Tisha B'Av. And we have been going now for this is our third week. And we will continue on through the day of blowing of trumpets, Yom Teruah, often called Rosh Hashanah, where that's 4 weeks away. Now, this is an interesting stage. We're in the season of Nakamu Ami, and everything we talk about today will be colored by the fact that this is that season. Now, Torah's focus during this period of time is what I call Deutero Moshe. It's the new improved version of Moses. He is not the stuttering prophet anymore. He is not the angry, tense, overstressed, overworked shepherd in the wilderness. He is now Deutero Moshe. He is the new improved version. He is the wise elder statesman, and he is the one who now sees all things from past, present, and future through the eyes of the Holy One who called him from his meager beginnings and who made him who he is. And so this Torah is focused in the section of Torah we call Deutero Moshe, which is all the book of Deuteronomy, basically. It's envisioning the children of Israel, the seed of Israel, B'nai Yisrael, actually entering into the land of the patriarchs, into the land of Israel. And there building a kingdom of heaven-centered society and making it functional and welcoming to the world, and also a sense of a light in a dark region, dark world. A kingdom of heaven-centered society, as the Holy One calls it to be. He has this vision, and his comforting words, the Nakamu Ami of Deutero Moshe are, it's going to be this way. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be more than you ever imagined. Well, the corresponding wallpaper book that we read along with Deutero Moshe and these 7 weeks of Nakamu Ami is Deutero Isaiah, the last section of Isaiah, chapters 41 through 66, the end of days vision of the prophet Yeshayahu, known to the Western world as Isaiah. This is the third of the 7 weeks of the Haftarah of the Deutero Isaiah vision, and he's going to reveal some things to us in Isaiah 54:11 through 55:5. I'll just let that aside for your reading later in the day on this Sabbath as you have some moments to yourself. Isaiah 54:11 through 55:5. I will just sum it up by saying, he says, all of your children will be taught by the Holy One, and great will be the shalom of your Holy One. Oh, all who thirst, come to the waters. Well, this is the substance, the theme of the Parsha and the Haftarah. In addition to it being the season of Deutero Isaiah, the Deutero Moshe, and of the consolation, it is also the season when we shift from the fifth moon cycle of the year to the sixth moon cycle of the year. We shift from the month called Menachem Av, the father of the frightened children, paradigm we're given of the Holy One, who is like gathering us as a hen gathers their chicks under the wing and says, it's going to be okay. That's the Menachem Av season. That's the month we've been in. Since Tisha B'Av, at least, since the 9th day of this past moon cycle, we have been in the sense of, come, it's going to be all right. And he gathers us together as a father gathers his children. With that in mind, we're going to shift focus this week. As next Wednesday at sundown, I believe it's the 16th of the month, at sundown, we have Rosh Chodesh, Elul, the next month, the 6th month of the biblical calendar will begin. In the 6th month, the focus changes from the fatherly vision of gathering the chicks, gathering the sons and daughters under the wing and saying it's going to be okay, the Menachem Av mindset, to a whole other paradigm of the Creator. He is the king in the field. He is the one who is ruling over and reigning over a realm, a kingdom, and we are his subjects. And the theme changes from, we know it's going to be okay because you told us it was, to, may your kingdom come and may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, O great, mighty, and glorious King. And so our focus, as we shift from a focus on the King, the Holy One as Father, to the Holy One as King, is we begin to focus on making teshuvah, volver in Spanish. We turn back to him. We will turn away from things, but the focus is not what we turn away from. That will be forgotten in a moment. We're turning to, turning back to the Torah, turning back to the Holy One's presence, and his face, and his leadership, and his guidance, and his embrace. That's what we're going back to. Second thing we're changing focus on, we're going to make slikot. Slikot is a Hebrew word which usually means prayers of forgiveness. Prayers asking for forgiveness, for mercy. We're going to turn our focus to, since he's our king now, we realize who he really is. He's not just our father, our Abba. He is that, but he's more. He's the creator of the universe. He's the king of all kings. And so we come humbly before him, asking for his grace, his favor, his mercy. And the third thing is, armed with those two things, making teshuvah and making shlikot, we then step into the third realm, which is what makes the kingdom come. And that is making tzedakah, charity, kindnesses, giving, spreading his mercies and kindnesses to other people in practical, tangible ways. That's what brings the kingdom to the earth. So we add another wallpaper book. We add Psalm 27 to our daily meditations. That will begin Wednesday. We do it every day, a daily meditation from the Torah, the Haftarah, and Psalm 27. That gets us up to date on our times and our seasons. And that's what will color everything we're going to talk about today in regard to the Parsha known as Re'eh. The general theme of this discourse of two pathways diverging that Moshe is going to give us, this vision that he has, is to ask us if we think we really are seeing what is going on in the world. Or if we realize, perhaps, we get a picture that maybe our vision has been obstructed, has been diminished, it has been somehow colored by the thoughts and the impressions of the post-Edenic mankind in its fallen state. What have we been looking at and focusing on? What has been stirring up passion in us, fire in us, anger in us, angst in us? What have we been looking at and what have we been focusing on? What have we been seeing? What have we been forming opinions and judgments about? What have we been reacting emotionally to? You see, maybe we need to reconsider. As the beginning words of the parsha are, behold, open your eyes and look beyond where you think you see. Yes, our vision needs a substantial upgrade, beloved. Open your eyes and see through the Holy One's view finder. So what does Moshe see at this stage of his life, this Deutero Moshe character that is suddenly developing and showing such wisdom and such calm and such perspective and such shalom on the plains of Moab? What does he see now that we have not been seeing, that the world cannot see, that the nations just can't even fathom, but that we should be able to at least get an idea? What does he see? What does Moshe see that we do not see? He wants us to come up here where he is, into his rarefied air. He wants us to get the helicopter view and beyond to see what he sees about our future and about the plan of the Holy One and how this will indeed all turn out all right, as the father Menachem Av has said, because the kingdom will come. Moshe sees a blueprint laying out before him, a living blueprint of a kingdom of heaven-centered society coming up from the earth, being built by human hands, but being built by human hands guided and directed and blessed and moved by the creator of the universe. He sees a kingdom of heaven-centered society arising out of the land of Israel and spreading across the face of the earth. He sees Jerusalem, the city that he won't name, but he knows he wants you to find it for yourself. The city of Yerushalayim, the city where it's a city of light set on a high hill. He wants you to see it, and then he wants you to remember that the other city that has been built by man, Babel, the other cities, Babel, you remember that one. That was a different kind of city, the antithesis of the city of Yerushalayim, as were Sodom and Gomorrah. They were the antithesis of what he intends to have arise and come out of this holy city of Jerusalem, this city set on a hill, which cannot be hidden. Don't be like the ones who build Babel, or build the Babylonian towers, or build Sodom and Gomorrah. They're a lawless, loveless, godless people, groups. They are obsessed with their own selves, their own egos, their own competition, their own ethnicity, their own gender, or their own race, their own age group, their own generation, their own ideology, their own political theory, their own national association or educational position, institution and background. They're all caught up in themselves. But there's a city coming forth from the land of Israel, from the hills around Moriah and around Zion and around the different hills around Jerusalem. That city's coming forth and shining like the sun in beauty ways. So it's time to lift our eyes, beloved, and gaze wide-eyed on this Sabbath into the unseen realm that the prophets talk about, that Shaul of Tarsus talked about, seeing the unseen. Faith, what is it? Is evidence of the unseen. Seeing beyond the dark veil of thorn and thistle experience since post-Eden man has fallen, and seeing beyond the crippling mindset of low expectations that men have developed over the course of generations, seeing beyond all that to the plan of the Holy One, the end game of the Holy One. I want to give you just a taste from Isaiah. Again, this Deutero Isaiah section that we're reading. 64 verses 1. This is not this week's Haftarah, but it is a sign of what the king in the field season that we're entering looks like through the prophet's eyes. Here's what the prophet Yeshayahu says. Oh, speaking to the Holy One, speaking to heaven, oh, that you would rend the heavens and come down, that the mountains might shake at your presence. As fire burns brushwood, as fire causes water to boil, make your name known to your adversaries, that the nations, the people groups, the ethnicities may all tremble at your presence. You did when you did awesome things for which we did not look, like those days. You came down the mountain, shook at your presence. But since this age began, men have not heard, nor perceived by the ear, nor has any eye seen, O God, who stands alone, what you will build and bring forth for those who wait upon you. Well, that's Isaiah 64, 1 through about verse 4. And it goes on if you want to read that chapter in your times. But we're going to move on. I want you to get this idea. Lift up your eyes. The Holy One wants to build something, and he wants to use your hands and your families and your households to do it. The question is, do you have ears to hear? We've been talking about the Shema concept, the whole idea of learning how to tune our ears, turn our hearts, tune our whole lives into the sounds coming from heaven, the frequency of the Creator's voice, and also the tone of his voice, and also the words of his mouth. And to turn our ears to that. That's been our previous week's focus. Now we're going to turn our eyes. We're going to lift our eyes. And the question is no longer just do we have ears to hear what the Spirit is saying. The question is now, do we have eyes to see what the Creator is building, making the cosmos? You see, there are stories being written that most people have no idea about. There are songs being composed. There are symphonies being written. There are testimonies being formed and testimonies being spoken that are far beyond the veil of human understanding. All of it's happening. It's unprocessed right now. Do you have ears to hear? Do you have eyes to see? Well, behold, beloved, Mira, the land of Israel awaits you, calls to you. The question is, what will you make of it? Now, we're talking specifically, and the Holy One through Deutero-Moshe, the new Moshe, as we're reading about, is talking specifically about the Holy Land, the land of Israel, the land of the patriarchs. But I will tell you this, that out of the land of the patriarchs, beyond that, every little piece of earth is a microcosm that we're to make look like Israel. Be fruitful as much as it can be like unto Israel. So not just what are you going to make of the land of Israel, what are you going to make of the terra firma, where you live, where you shop, where you work, where you walk, where you interact with humanity, where you put things online. What are you going to make of the sphere of influence, the zone of impact you have been provided? And yes, ultimately, what will you do when you get to Israel? What will you build there? How will the world change as a result of it? So what kind of kingdom and what quality of kingdom, with what kind of priorities and what kind of lifestyle model will you build there? If you're opening your eyes, you're getting a vision, what is your plan? What is your agenda? What is your hope? What is your aspiration to build in this new land that you're given to occupy, that you're entrusted with as a steward to build the kingdom of heaven out? How will you change it? What will you develop in it? What will you provide there? That is the signature brushstroke, the Elohim signature brushstroke that proves it's not your kingdom. It's not your talent. It's not your ability. It's not your wisdom. It's not your intelligence. It is instead his touch, the master's touch, the touch of the master. What will be the Elohim signature brushstrokes that will make this and define it as the kingdom of the heavens, the kingdom of the heavenly one, and make it a kingdom of heaven-centered society rather than a kingdom of you or your ethnicity or your nationality or your gender or your age group or your generation or your denomination's mindset. What will make this the kingdom's brushstrokes? What will differentiate what you're going to build, what you're going to do in your different spheres of influence from just another Psalm 2, nation raging? As you know, why do the nations rage and the peoples imagine a vain thing? How will this be different? How will this be him establishing his king upon his holy hill? Well, will it be just another new set, revitalized, reactivated set of pagan ways and practices, this time attributed to the Holy One's name, or will it be the courts of the Holy King brought from heaven to earth? What will it be? Will it be every man as he sees fit and believes, and every splinter group as it suits their fancy in the new realm that you're building? Or will it be many tribes, but one unified people, for worshiping and serving the one true God in unity, his declared way? Which will it be as you build this kingdom? What do you have eyes to see? Do you have eyes only to see the perpetuation of your own tribe, your own ethnicity, your own denomination, your own religion, or do you see one unified people worshiping and serving one God because he is worthy, because he his worth draws people into the worship of him, and they just follow suit, and therefore they don't follow each other, they follow him. Well, will it be that? What will it be? What kind of kingdom will it be that you're building in Israel? Will it be just dirt is dirt, wherever it may be, and city is a city, wherever it may be? Or will it be, this is a different place with a different way, a heavenly portal? Our city, the city of Jerusalem, will be the heavenly portal out of which holiness flows, wisdom flows, and healing for the nations all flow into the world. Will it be like that? What will it be? What's your vision? What's your perspective? And what's your plan? Will time just be measured by trips around the sun and water under the bridge? Or will there be times and seasons in divine order and rhythm, all working together, designed to come together into a great in-game glorification of the Holy One and a unification of the nations? Central theme this week. Oh, say, can you see Jerusalem arising? Beloved, do you see Jerusalem rising? Do you see the city that is the vision that Abraham had? He was always looking for a city not built by human hands, a city whose builder and maker was God, a city with foundations. Oh, say, can you see Jerusalem arising? Are you a seed of Abraham? Do you have in you the same passion, the same heart that the Holy One awakened by breathing upon him and saying, Lech Lecha, and be a blessing to every household and family on the face of the earth? Oh, do you see Jerusalem arising? Can you let your eyes focus not on the governments and not on the politics and not on the ideologies and not on the talking heads of the news medias? Can you focus on Jerusalem arising? What's really happening in the world, the shifting that's taking place in the spiritual realm, in the unseen realm that will soon become visible. Do you see it? Oh, do you see it? Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, Jerusalem arising. The place where the tribes go up, all the different nations and all the different tribes go up, the tongues, the languages, the peoples, the tribes go up, the tribes of the Holy One, to the testimony of Israel, to give thanks to the name of the Holy One, our God. Do you see it? See, if you can see it, if you visualize Jerusalem as the joy of the whole earth, the place we all pray for and aspire to go, and the place from which a portal will come forth and heaven will pour out upon the earth. If you see it, then the idea is, what are we going to do with it? We're going to build. This is the Moshe's vision, at least. Deuteronomy Moshe sees us building a model, heaven-centered society centered in that city set on a hill. In the end-game plan of the Holy One, you see, in this time of Nakamu Ami, when we're talking and focusing on how it's all going to turn out all right, the end-game plan is that Jerusalem will arise and take center stage in all the earth, not as an object of hatred, as an aspiration, as a goal, as an all-fulfilling purpose. And people, as it says, from all over the world, of every ethnicity and in every generation will say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Holy One, to the house of the God of Yaakov, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. You see, the Holy One has a divine strategy of how to fix the world. We talked some last week. You may want to go back and read it about Tikkun Olam, the idea of fixing the world. And the Holy One has a plan. He is the only one who does have a plan. The politicians don't have a plan. The governments don't have a plan. The ideologies don't have a plan. They just want to point out what's wrong and who's to blame for it, and moan and groan about it, and cast aspersions and accusations around about it. The Holy One, though, has a plan to fix the world. It's his creation. He cares about it. He loves it. He wants to see it prosper and flourish and thrive. And he has a strategy. And that strategy is a counterbalance strategy. For every force in this world, it's kind of like Newton's kind of law. For every force, there's an equal and opposite force. For every force of darkness, there is an equal and opposite force of light. For every force of depression and sadness and angst and outrage, there is a focus of shalom and joy and hope and beauty. Well, you see, beloved, he has the counterbalance strategy. He will provide what is the opposite, the antithesis of the darkness that the world sees, that the nations see. His Elohim signature was defined for us at Creation Week during the Genesis 1 story. He takes two counterbalancing opposites of offsetting realms, and like the heavens and the earth, the darkness and the light, the waters and the dry land, the heavens, the skies above where the birds fly, and the waters below where the creatures of the sea and the rivers live. All these different types of different offsets and offsetting realms. He takes these realms, each one containing its own self-sustaining ecosystem, and he separates them. He puts a dividing line between them, a purity, a place where you choose one or the other. And this rakia, firmament, is placed there, and it is formed by divine speech. And as long as you stay in divine speech, you stay on the rakia. But if you move one way to the right or to the left, you take one of the offsetting realms. Well, this is the idea. Everything is run by, in the kingdom, run by divine speech, run by his words, his instructions. It's not in our obedience to them. It is in the power of his instructions themselves. So his divine counterbalancing strategy is that he provides a choice for us to make as we open our eyes and behold and see two worldviews, or two ideations, two processes of forming and implementing ideas and opinions and beliefs and narratives and imaginations and defense mechanisms and inclinations and biases and prejudices and all the viewpoints and two worldviews, two ideations. Which one will you choose? Will you choose the way of fallen man, or will you choose the brighter, beautiful vision, the worldview and the ideation that the Creator designed man to hold before the fall? Bnei Israel is the example. The children of Israel have the viewpoint, are given at least the capacity, ears to hear, eyes to see, the worldview of the Creator, the ideation methodologies of the Creator. And Hagoyim, the opposite, the offsetting realm here, the nations, the ethnicities of the world that are not caught up into the covenant. These are the ones who have the fleshly worldview, the pseudo-intellectual worldview, the ideation, the negative thing of fallen man since the Garden of Eden. Well, in addition to two worldviews that are diverging before us, the Holy One wants us to see, Moshe wants us to see, behold, two pathways of life. One leads to blessing, and one leads to what in English we read as a curse, as a matter of just winding down to insignificance, to irrelevance, winding down into dissipation and disappearance. That's what the pathway on that side is, on the curse side, kalal in Hebrew. Kalal. Well, and so the two pathways of life are diverging before us. The King's highway, walking with the King, where the King's going, to the King's destination, for the King's purposes, or the prodigal's path, the way of dissipation, the way of waste, the way of taking all the temporal passions and pleasures or pain and absorbing them and being washed away by them and not seeing the King's plan and vision or ever experiencing it. So, two pathways of life diverge before your eyes, beloved. You have to choose which one you want. Do you want to walk on the King's highway, the narrow path that leads to life, or do you want to walk on the broad path, the prodigal's pathway, that leads to death and destruction. Two worldviews and ideations are diverging before you. Two pathways of life are diverging before you. Also, there are two mountains standing before you. In Parsha Re'eh, Moshe tries to get you to see two mountains in the heart of Israel. Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim. Two mountains stand in opposition to each other, with Shechem, the city of Shechem, or now Nablus, in between, the village lies between. You have to choose one mountain. Ebal is a bald area. There's just no hardly any growth at all there. It's not flourishing. It's not thriving. But on the other side, just on the other side of the corresponding mountain, the counterbalancing mountain is Gerizim. The mountain is green and lush and thriving and flourishing. Oh, which will you choose? Will you choose the way of thriving and the mountain of that, or will you choose the way of dryness and despair and disgust and judgmentalism and anger and outrage? Which one will you wish? Which one will you choose? The divine counterbalance is out there. The choice is yours. And finally, if you look a little bit further, open your eyes and look a little further, Moshe would say, and you'll see two cities. You'll see Babel, of course, on the plains of Shinar. And you will see all the ruins that have fallen because of the ideas behind that city and that tower. But now rising on the plains, on the hills, in the high hills of Israel, you will see the city of Jerusalem shining like the sun, bright in its white alabaster stone. Yes, the city of Jerusalem. Well, if you want to understand this vision of that city, a city beyond other cities, a city that provides a model to all the world. Look at Psalm 48, Psalm 84, Psalm 122, Psalm 128. That's 48, 84, 122, 128. You could also look at 137. But I want to just give you those to look at. You don't have time to discuss them now. Oh, but beloved, if you want to get a vision for the Deutero-Moshe, the Deutero-Isaiah, the end game plan, read these Psalms 48, 84, 122, 128, and yes, 137. I want to go to the Parsha of this week and give you some verses that kind of get you a picture of this place. 16 times in this Parsha, Moshe is going to refer to something that he hasn't spoken much of before, if at all. He says, there's going to be a place among your tribes which the Holy One will choose to put his name. 16 times, this place, Makom, this portal that the Holy One is going to choose to touch and connect heaven and earth and bring the connection, bring the downflow from heaven, the downwash of the energies of heaven and the beauties of heaven down into the earth through this portal. And this portal will be a place the Holy One chooses from among all your tribal allotments. So here's Deuteronomy 12, verse 5. Seek. The instruction from Moshe is to seek. Bachar, look for. Diligently put energy into finding the place, Hamakom, that the Holy One, your God, chooses from among all your tribal allotments to put his name for his dwelling place. You see, it's not just about a special city where a lot of good people dwell. It's where he dwells. He is going to make it his dwelling place. This is his plan. This is the tent maker's dream, that he would dwell on earth among men. He says, and there, Moshe says, and there you are to go. So seek it. Seek out this place where he's going to put his name for his dwelling place, and there you are to go. We are to look for that. This is to be our destination. And then in verse 18 of the same chapter 12, verse 18, it says, you and your son and your daughter, yes, your male servant, your female servant, and the Levite who is within your gates, go and you are to rejoice there. This is this place, this Jerusalem rising. You are to rejoice there before the Holy One your God in all to which you put your hands. Oh, every time you put your hand to the plow, every time you put your hand in the seed bag and begin to plant, every time you go and prune the fruit trees, every time you take care of the newborn calf or a lamb or a kid, every time you do this focus, this is to joy, to rejoice in the city set on a hill. Now I'm going to move on. Deuteronomy 14 is also in the Parsha. 14:23. And it says, in the place he chooses, Moshe speaking, in the place he chooses to make his name abide, in the presence before the face of the Holy One your God, you are to eat the tithe of your grain, the 10% of your grain, and your new wine, and your oil, and all of your firstborn of your herds and your flocks, that you may learn the fear of the Holy One your God always. Jerusalem is to be a place of great celebration. It's to be a place of killing the fatted calf. It's to be a place of pouring out in abundance and rejoicing and dancing and singing. The place of Jerusalem is not to be a place of sadness. Oh, we've learned that. We've gone through what happens whenever we don't walk in his ways. Jerusalem can be conquered and destroyed and burned, and we can be sent to the nations. Oh, but the Jerusalem he has in mind for us is a place of joy and great delight. It's not a place of law. It is lawful, but it's not a place where we're just slaves to the law. It's a place where we celebrate and rejoice in the goodness of our God. And it goes on in chapter 16, verse 17 of Deuteronomy. This part also, Moses says, 3 times a year, all your males are to appear before the Holy One your God. It's not just you go to a pilgrimage. You appear before the Holy One your God in the place he chooses. There it is again. In the place he chooses. What are the 3 times of the year? At the feast of unleavened bread, and at the feast of weeks, and at the feast of tabernacles. And they are not. No one is to come empty-handed before the Holy One. Now from the Haftarah this week, let me just read this to you from Isaiah 54:11 and following. It's the Holy One singing a song over Jerusalem. After the 9th of Av and all the destructions, the vision he has for the future. He sings it like this. Oh, you afflicted one, tossed with tempest and not comforted, behold, Rahab. I will lay your stones with colorful gems. I will lay your foundations with sapphires. And I will make your pinnacles out of rubies, your gates of crystal, and your walls of precious stones. And all your children, all your little ones will be taught by the Holy One. And great will be the shalom of your children, of all your little ones. Bitzdacha, in righteousness, in zedekah, in charity and kindness and mercy, you will be firmly established, set forth as a city set on a hill. And he goes on, it says, Oh, everyone who thirsts, come to these waters. And you have no money even, come and buy. Yes, and the prophet Zechariah continues this vision. He says this way, peoples will yet come, nations, ethnicities will yet come, inhabitants of many cities. The inhabitants of one city of the world will go to another, and they'll say, come, let us continue to go and pray before the Holy One, and let us seek the Holy One of hosts. I myself will go also. And yes, many peoples and strong nations will come to seek the Holy One of hosts in Jerusalem, and will pray before the Holy One. And in those days, 10 men from every language of the nations will take hold of the kanaf, of the fringe, he who is a Hebrew, a Jew, saying, let us go with you, for we have heard that God is with you. Oh, do you see the vision? Do you see how things are shifting and changing? Do you see the calling of the King as well as the calling of the Father, that it's all going to be all right? It's going to be all right because the King will make it all right, and he will draw all men unto you. The heaven-scented society will arise. The first crossroads is, what will you do? How will you look? Will you take the pathway of the pilgrim, or will you take the pathway of the prodigal? Will you take the King's highway, or will you take the prodigal's path? A crossroads is looming, beloved. There are 2 paths you can go by. But you need to understand that you are going somewhere. And your destination impacts not just you, but your family, your bloodline, your household, your generations to come, your generations that have preceded you. It affects the people who know you and care about you, even the people who don't like you.
even the people who reject you or mock you. It affects everyone. The place where you envision yourself as going, in this world and in the world to come, has a great impact. So what is your spiritual center of gravity? It is where the King of heaven sits enthroned. It is the city of Jerusalem, the place where he has chosen to place his name. It is the earthly Jerusalem and the heavenly Jerusalem. And let me just say, they connect. They are the same Jerusalem, just one is in one realm and one is in the other. They are mirror images of one another. Our Jerusalem that we build upon the earth, that we inhabit and we bless along the earth, that we pray for in the earth, should merely be a mirror image of the heavenly Jerusalem to come. So come, let us go up to Jerusalem. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and worship the King, his way. I call this discourse of Moshe not just the two diverging pathways discourse, but the would you please come up here and see what I see discourse. Moshe wants to give you a new perspective, a new worldview. He wants to show you the diverging pathways and the different destinations, and he wants to assure you that you have a place, that you belong in the kingdom of heavens and its society. And you have a role to play in bringing that society to earth. You have a place to go, a place to muster, a place to rally, a place to be inspired and encouraged, a place to be briefed and embraced by the Holy One and sent forth the city in the celebrations of the great King. So let us sing our Baraku, and then we'll read a little bit from our section. Baraku et Adonai Hamborak. Baruch Adonai Hamborak Leolam Bayet. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amin V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. And now may you open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah. I will read first in the Hebrew to let it waft into your spirits and awaken your eyes and your vision as well as your hearts. Then I will come back and I will try to catch you up in the mind with what you just caught in your spirit, with the English language that you're familiar with, more or less. So it begins this way. The parse begins this way. Behold. Asher tishmeu al mitzvot. It says, I set before you, it should go on, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. It says this, Asher tishmeu al mitzvot. If and when you tune your ears to and focus upon and get in tune with and rhythm with and flow in resonance with the instructions of the Holy One, then the blessing will come. But im lo tishmeu al mitzvot. But if and when you lo shema, if you determine you're not going to get in resonance with and flow in frequency of and correspond, you change your life to correspond to the instructions of the Holy One, then this other thing, this kilah, will take place. And this will mean you will wind yourself down into insignificance, to irrelevance. You will dissipate. You will become of less impact. So these are the key factors here. So come, let us return to the Holy One, our God. After 2 days, he will revive us. On the third day, he will raise us up that we may live in his sight. Let us know him. Let us pursue knowing him. Let us recenter our lives. Re'eh, with which the parsha begins, the words with the parsha begin, is a prophetic countdown indicator. The countdown begins. Re'eh. Our hearts, our souls, our minds, even our flesh begins to tune up, get in tune. When we hear Re'eh, now we begin to focus upon the destination to which we're going, the end game which we're playing. Our hearts, our souls, and our minds, and our bodies, and our priorities prepare to embrace the high calling of the Holy One, our God. Yes, we still live in a fallen world. Yes, we still are flesh, made up of flesh. We are spiritual, eternal beings caught up in a, trapped, as it were, for temporarily, or deployed at least, temporarily deployed, in an earthly tabernacle that has temptations and appetites and urges and desires and worries and concerns. Yes, we're all that, but there's something arising within us now. Something being awakened by the platoon of something calling us to testify to the nations of the goodness of the Holy One, of the power of His calling upon our lives, and of the wisdom that He wants to pour out upon the earth, and the healing that He wants to do to the lands and the nations, the rapidly approaching season of His divine appointments. Something stirring. Something stirring deep within our souls. This is the sound, the times and the seasons. This is the sound of heaven awakening our hearts. Our hearts should begin to leap in our chest a little bit. Awe should begin to arise. Reverence, delight. Our angst, our offenses, and our stresses of this world should begin to retreat a little bit. Begin to go back where they belong. Put back in proper perspective. We should begin to lift our eyes now above the ordinary, mundane affairs of life and entertainment and business and money and politics and relationships and religion, and our hearts should begin to be set on pilgrimage, the most joyful of all pilgrimages, to Jerusalem, the city of our King, a city of light set on a hill. Very good. Now, the Kingdom of Heaven Sid Society blueprint that we're called to build when we get there is going to be a beautiful thing. It is the pattern, the model after which the nations are to be gathered. And we will do it as mortal human beings. We know that Messiah eventually will come and reign and rule, and He will take over, and He will make it more perfect than we could possibly make it. He will make it in its fullness, and we will now draw all of His energy to bring it to the rest of the world. But we will begin where we are with what we have. We will get caught up, and then in the Kedusha energy downflows. These parshas are a preparation for what's coming. But who has ears to hear? Who has ears to hear and who has eyes to see? Who will move forward with the Holy One? What set of lenses are you using, and what is the destination to which you think you're going? Well, beloved, that's all I really have time for with you this morning. I would tell you that you will see things on the two diverging pathways that will distract you from the mission. One of them will be you will see the ruins of the places where the nations worship the things they value and prioritize. You will see the broken down temples and shrines. You will see the relics, the icons, the idols, the old banners and pictures of their superstars and their heroes. You will see the washed up entertainers that no one cares about anymore. You will see all these things, and the idea is we don't take them home. They're not ours. They're gone, and we relinquish them to another day. Those things like totem poles and altars, pagan altars that we see littered and abandoned along the way. We're not to consider those as souvenirs. We're not to stop and take selfies with them. They're not something that we should honor. No, and to the contrary, we should understand we are moving the world beyond that. We have to take the world to a higher place than that ever was. So that beyond that, we'll see people then who are still focusing on something very similar to those pagan worlds. We'll see people who are trying to use pagan things, pagan created things, designed things, in the worship and service of the Creator. They will try to use local worship centers and local worship priesthoods and clergy classes and different things, and each man will have his own denomination or his own belief, and they will focus all their attention on meeting together and doing things that make them feel good about religion, as opposed to actually getting caught up in the great vision of the kingdom and the end game to come, the city of Jerusalem. They will act as independent of each other. They will do each man what he thinks is right in his own eyes. we see this is one of the things we'll see along the way. We'll be tempted to say, well, would that be a good idea? Could we just make our own altars where we want to, and then have whatever belief system we want, and write down a kind of a constitution or a creed and follow that? Oh no, beloved, we're to look beyond all that. We're to go where the King goes and do what the King does, and not focus upon what the nations and the world and the ones who are distracted by all these things follow. In addition, we're going to see poor people. The world and the nations, they don't deal with poor people well at all. They either exploit them and take advantage of them, or oppress them and because they can, or they obsess over them and they build government programs to try to imagine they're doing some good for them. But they actually just trap them in a deeper form, a more pervasive and perverse form of slavery, to the gift, to the handout. You see, we have a different kingdom of heaven pathway. The pathway that leads to the city of Jerusalem will be a pathway of honoring the poor, seeing them and realizing that everything that we have been given is not ours. It is something that we are entrusted with, put in our hands for the purposes of the kingdom. While we're to feed ourselves and our families and take care of ourselves, we are not to exploit anybody else. We are to think about other people, and we'll see tzedakah, we'll see charity, we'll see kindnesses, and certain protocols are going to be laid out, rules of engagement with the poor that are unique to our kingdom. No other nation does those things. Other nations use capitalistic ideas of exploitation or communist ideas of social wealth redistribution, or other ways of just trying to handle a problem with money. But the kingdom of heaven has a different viewpoint. You can read in the chapters 14, 15, 16 and see that. Now, the additional differences we'll see is the way we look at time. The time is not just another set of trips around the sun that we all experience, and it's all for us and what we can get out of our life. Time is an orchestrated symphony. It's designed by the creator of the universe. And he has times and seasons that we are to follow. He has an annual program, an annual set of testimonies that he wishes us to participate in, plays that he wishes us to perform. These are the festivals, the feasts, the Moedim of the Torah. He has 7-year plans. See, the Shemitah has 50-year plans. He has all of time orchestrated according to the divine plan of redemption and restoration. That's the kind of things we'll see as the pathways diverge. And Moshe says, come up here and see what I see, and choose what kind of impact you will have upon the world, and what kind of signature brushstrokes of the King you will leave. Well, Shabbat Shalom. I'll see you next week.